Hi, I'm Andrew and this is Offshore Audio. Welcome to part 4 of our How to Mix a Gig series. I'm going to take you through line check this time, just getting all the channels into the mixer and making sure our gain is set up properly and ready for our sound check. If you've not seen the other parts of this series, then I'll just link them below in the comments. Other than that, let's dive in. Okay, so let's dive into the line check then. Now, what is it that we're doing in the line check? Essentially, we're just moving through everything and every channel and making sure that we have a good, clean signal with enough gain. So, I don't have a band here right now, but I do have a recording of a band. So we're going to do a virtual line check and sound check. Let's just get started and I'll just show you what I tend to do. So, we'll start with our first channel. That's just the kick drum. And I'll select it, I'll solo it, I'll have everything on mute before I turn anything up. And I will just turn the gain up on this channel until it reaches minus 18 decibels over here on my meter. Just minus 18 on the meter here is a good point. It gives me enough headroom to work with during the show, and it's high enough that if I need to send it somewhere else, then I have enough signal to do that. Maybe a good rule of thumb, perhaps, is to just look on your mixer for where it turns orange. You can see I'm just clipping the orange part here. Aim for that. After that's done, I'll unmute the channel and I'll bring it up. Now, hopefully you can hear that. Once I've got the channel up, bring it to what I imagine is a reasonable level, fine-tune later. I can move on to any other things I need to do to make it sound great for me. So this kick drum, maybe I'll just really quickly give it a bit of EQ. You know, make sure that I have the oomph that I need in the low end, maybe the snap that I need in the high end. And you know, I can leave it there because we're going to have time to fine tune this later. I'm also going to engage a gate because right now I'm going to take the time I have during this line check to make sure that it's basically as close to how I want it to sound as possible. So I'll turn this gate on and I'll just bring it in until I hear that I don't hear any other parts of the kit. I don't hear any of the cymbals coming in when the kick hits are not happening. I can fine tune the settings of this later on as well. But now it's time to move on. So we'll take the next channel. Take the snare drum. I'm going to select it. I'm going to solo it. And I'm going to bring that gain up again. And I'm aiming for minus 18. Looks good to me. So I'm going to unmute it and I'm going to bring it into the mix. Similarly, I'm also going to jump on the EQ. Maybe I'm going to add a low cut here because there's not so much important low-end information in the snare drum in a live setting. It's mostly just going to cause me feedback. And then, you know, I might add a little sizzle somewhere if I need a bit more sizzle. You know, I could take out some boominess in the middle and add a little oomph in the low mids. Great. I'm not going to gate the snare drum right now because there could be all sorts of ghost notes and things like that. Let's move on. So I've got my overheads here. So I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to solo them and I'm going to get the gain up to a reasonable place. Which is taking a little more gain. If these were condenser microphones, you'd want to make sure that you had phantom power enabled, otherwise you might not get signal. And I can just unmute them and bring them into the mix as well. Do any EQ that I want to do. This is great if we have time, but maybe we don't have time. Maybe it's a really rushed sound check and we just need to get through it as quick as possible. Over time, you'll develop a muscle memory and intuition of how quickly you can go through this process. You know, I can now just finish the line check by just soloing the things that I need to solo, getting that gain up, making sure that I've got the levels I need, bring it into the mix. Next, bring up that level,
real quick, good enough for me. Into the mix. Next, level up. Close enough. Into the mix. Vocals, level up. Into the mix. And then I've got everything in the mix. Now, what am I looking for when I'm doing this? I'm looking for clean sound on my channels, you know? I don't want to hear any distortion. I don't want to hear the wrong things as well. I want to know that when I turn up my snare drum, I'm getting the snare mic, and I want to make sure that that mic is in the right position. I want to hear the snare, and mostly just the snare. So if something doesn't sound right, now is the time to get on the stage and check it. I also spend this time maybe to ask the vocalist if they like reverb on their vocal, and I'll set up a reverb. Right now in the line check, I'll most likely just fire a quick reverb on, and then we can have a discussion about length of reverb or style later if they have a preference on that sort of thing. And also, at this point, I've just brought the levels to be roughly where I want them to be. It's essentially a really rough mix. If I had no time at all, I could start a show with it. I could just fire in some monitors and then we could go. It wouldn't sound great, but we'd have time to fine tune it. We don't want that though. What we want is a sound check.
So I hope that was useful to you. One of the most important parts of the line check is just getting a good gain structure, which sets you up for the rest of the gig. Changing the gain during the gig isn't something you really want to do. If you've got more time, you can also use the line check to just fine tune everything. But if you don't, just get it done in the sound check and fine tune in the gig if you really have to. If you want to know more about the stage and everything on it, I've got a workshop that you can take for free. I'll link to that down below in the comments. And I will be back soon with part 5, which will be looking at the sound check. See ya.